What up, guys? This is another true crime video, and this one is about serial killers this time. And honestly, I truly feel that these are some of the most scary serial killers I've ever looked up. And I mean, I've always had a fascination with serial killers. You know, there's so many different kinds. Like Andrew Cunanan, he wasn't like very sadistic as much as he was very vindictive. And then there's like Jeffrey Dahmer and Ted Bundy, who were just very sexually driven. These serial killers, something out of a horror movie, like Michael Myers, Jason, freaking Freddy Krueger, Pinhead, Leatherface. These people, they weren't sexually driven. They weren't revenge driven. They literally went out and slaughtered people the most brutal way just for fun. These killers were the Dnepropetrovsk Maniacs. 3 people went on trial, but one of them was not necessarily part of the murders. One of them was just, he hung out with them a lot, but he didn't participate in the murders. There was 2 people, and the other one was like the guy who usually he was mostly responsible for like the murders and stuff. He was like the guy who was always holding the weapon and stuff and killing the person, while the other guy was just like videotaping. I'm not saying that like the guy who was always holding the camera didn't participate. He did participate in the murders. So here's where we're gonna start. First of all, this is not gonna be a deep dive. If you do want to see like a very specific deep dive of this case, I recommend Eleanor Neal's video. Yeah, she's made like a 3-part series of this case and stuff like that, and it's very specific. So if you want to know like a lot about this case, then I recommend going to her channel. So Igor Sapranyak and Victor Sayenko, they were 2 people that met, and they basically became friends, maybe even best friends, I don't know. And they always got into trouble ever since their earlier days. Like, they would freaking beat up kids and steal their bikes and stuff like that. They were just getting into trouble and stuff like that. But what is really fascinating about this is that these kids weren't even grown in like really poor families. Like, they weren't in poverty or anything. Igor's dad was a pilot and even flew the president of Ukraine. I mean, I'm pretty sure, I think that's what I read. He was a pilot, and then Victor's father was a lawyer, an attorney. So it's like, these kids weren't like freaking brought up in like poverty and horrible circumstances. They were raised in like high class, middle class, families and stuff like that. But yet it's kind of like the Columbine brothers, the Dylan Klebold and Eric Harris. It's like 2 friends that met up and had something in common. They were just sadistic, they were violent, and they just wanted to hurt people. Prior to this, they met a 3rd friend. His name was Alexander. So they basically became a trio. Like the 3 amigos, it was like the 3 of them and stuff like that. And they would like rob people. And then when I say rob, like rob people, they would put like the ski masks on, they would have the guns and stuff like that. And Victor got a job as a security guard. Igor got a job as an unlicensed taxi driver because his father bought him a car. and he was using that car, but you know, most of the time that he was using that car, it was to rob people. And the three of them were just like, you know, they were kind of like a team and stuff like that. I kind of feel like they felt like they started feeling like, you know, they were invincible. Like nothing could ever happen to them. Nobody could ever stop them because they knew that they had fears. All three of them. They had fears. Both Igor and Victor, they were terribly afraid of heights. Alexander was terribly afraid of blood. He was the most squeamish of the three. So what they did was Igor and Victor would literally like go up to their balcony and kind of hang themselves like by their feet, and then just like stay there for such a long time until they felt like they weren't afraid anymore. And then meanwhile, because Alexander was so afraid of blood, or he was so squeamish when it came to blood, the guys grabbed, you know, they would like take stray dogs, stray cats, stray animals, and just kill them. And then they would make Alexander kind of like, you know, look at the blood, touch the blood, you know, all that stuff. And this was their way to cope with their phobia. After they did this, they kind of realized like they had a very sadistic nature in them. And so then they started actually like, you know, like kidnapping stray animals and killing them, slaughtering them. There's so many pictures of it. I mean, it's not hard to like look at it. I mean, it's not hard to find it on the internet, you know. There's videos of them like hanging dogs, cats, stuff like that. And then there is one story, one of them that pisses me off so much, and it was taped, but only the jury was able to see it. I think this video is like long lost, but it was basically they found a white little kitten, nailed the kitten to a cross that they like made, and then started shooting BB guns at the kitten. And they were like videotaping it. It was in their garage. They were laughing about it. And you know what? I hope these people freaking burn alive in hell. But anyways, this was just the beginning of it. Eventually, they wanted to move on to humans. They one day decide to go out on a walk in the middle of the night. A young girl, or I mean, not a girl, she was a woman, but you know, she was still young. So there's a woman who is just coming out from I guess a tea party or something like that, like a little get together with their friends and stuff like that. And then Igor and Victor are walking past by her, and they find this as an opportunity. Obviously, you know, these are two like very young looking guys, you know, very two attractive looking guys. She probably didn't think much of it, but as soon as she walked right by them, they turn around, they beat her in the face. Well, Igor, Igor beats her in the face with the hammer and instantly kills her. And then they like run off. So now this person is dead. And like I said, if you want a deep dive of this, if you want to know what the victims' names were, I recommend Eleanor Neal's video, because her video about this case is way more specific. I'm just giving a broad like video about this whole entire case. So you would think that they would think, like a normal person would be like, oh my god, what did I just do? Like, this was wrong. No. 1 hour later, they were looking for somebody else, and they find a homeless man sitting in a bench. And they kill him the same exact way, basically smashing their face with a hammer to the point where both victims would be found unrecognizable, because, you know, their face was like pretty much just flesh, because he was beaten so bad with the hammer. And so then For the next month, you would every single day, you know, you would see like one body, the next day two bodies, the next day three bodies, the next day one body. You know, they were doing this for an entire month. And it's kind of crazy because it's like, I feel like these two serial killers felt very invincible. It's like they didn't think that they could ever get caught because one of their victims was a 14-year-old child, and I think that was the youngest of the people that they've killed. But the thing about this 14-year-old kid was that he was with his friend, and they tried to kill both of them, but one of them was able to escape. And the thing is, like, you would think that, like, after one of the people you try to kill escaped, you would stop. But no, they didn't. They continued. And what breaks my heart is that this kid, who the kid's friend who died, he was being blamed for his murder, and he was being beaten by police, even though this was just a young kid. It's like, it's so fucking stupid. But anyways, you would think that they would be like, oh shit, you know, like, oh my god, you know, somebody knows what we look like, somebody knows who we are, they're gonna report us. No, they continued, because later on, one of their victims, and this would be the most infamous murder of their killing spree, the three guys, one hammer murder, because it's all over the internet, it is so easy to find, and you just see the brutality. You see just how freaking sadistic and evil and violent these two kids were. Or, I mean, they were adults at this point, but, you know, they were still very young. For 7 minutes, you see a guy laying on the ground. He's probably confused. He has no idea what's about to happen. And then, you know, Igor. Okay, so I'm about to give you a reenactment of what exactly happens in the video, you know, just so like that you don't have to see it and stuff like that. You know, he has, like, they put some cardboard on his chest, and then he throws it up like that, and then he goes like this, and then all of a sudden, you know, the hammer goes like, I think it goes like right here in the middle of his head. It goes like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and all of a sudden, Victor, because Igor is the one with the hammer, Victor kind of zooms into his face, and then you just see blood gushing like all over and stuff like that, and his face is basically kind of like torn off, completely torn off. And basically the next few minutes, you know, it's Victor kind of grabbing a screwdriver and stabbing him in the stomach. And then the next thing is and then Victor starts like stabbing him in the eyes. And, you know, fast forward, blah, blah, blah. Victor's basically saying, like, just kill him already. Just kill him. Because he wasn't dying. You know, he was, like, suffering. For the whole 7 minutes, he was alive with his face, like, completely ripped off and being stabbed in the stomach and his eyes being gouged out. Victor was like, okay, just kill him already. And so Igor, like, hits him in the face with the hammer one more time, and then he finally dies. And then they go back to their car, and you know, they clean themselves up and stuff like that, and then they have the audacity to go back to the body and take pictures of them and do like Nazi signs and stuff like that. Like, these people were satanic, demonic, evil people, completely demonic, evil, pure evil psychopaths. But like, I feel like even Jeffrey Dahmer had way more morals than them, because at least Jeffrey tried to drug his victims and make sure that they didn't feel any pain or were unconscious. These people wanted to make sure that their victims were conscious and felt every single little bit of pain. So that's the reason why I say that. I feel like these are one of the most evil, scariest serial killers I've ever come across. Okay, fast forward, more people were killed. In the end of the month, 21 people were already dead, including a pregnant woman. And I guess it's alleged that the fetus was like ripped right out of her. I don't know if that's true or not, but it just goes to show how evil these two guys were. In the end of the day, how they were caught, the murders weren't connected in the beginning. But then, little by little, the kid who survived and gave a description of there was like a blonde guy and a guy with black hair, and they looked like they were like young. And then there were some people hiding in a tent who witnessed the whole thing, but they were too scared to like even get out. They put like the authorities put two and two together, and they realized that all these murders are connected, and we're dealing with two serial killers. There was one cell phone, and they went to a thrift store and they wanted to get some money for it. And once the guy turned it on, the police knew exactly where they were. So they stormed in and arrested their asses. And that's basically how they got caught, you know. They didn't think that, like, you know, people couldn't track you down. And yeah, they got caught. They went on trial. And Alexander got arrested too, the third person. They didn't know that you could track somebody down with cell phones. And once they were trying to pawn a cell phone in a thrift store, once they turned it on, the police knew exactly who the killers were and where they were. And that's when they got caught. And Alexander, he'd never participated in the murders, but he knew all about them. And he was responsible for a lot of the robberies and stuff like that. And the reason why Alexander wasn't part of the murders, didn't participate in the murders, obviously because he was like very squeamish with blood. So he's like, nah, you know what, you guys go ahead and do that. I don't want any part of it, but you know what, I'm not going to say anything. So, you know what, to me, he was just as guilty. But he only got 9 years because he never killed anyone. As for the other two, once they were in trial, they both got life in prison. And you know what? As much as I hate these two people, or three people, I don't know. I'm very curious to know how they're doing in prison. Russian prison. No. Ukrainian prison. I don't know what's the difference. But it's like, alright, prison in America, so many people get spoiled. I wonder what prison is like in Ukraine. So that's basically the case, you know. They were found guilty. 21 people died, were brutally murdered. And I've never seen Ukraine the same way before. But yeah, if you guys know more about this case that I haven't mentioned, please leave me a comment and stuff like that. Like I said, if you want to know more detailed facts about this case, I truly recommend Eleanor Neal's video, or, you know, videos about this series and stuff like that, or about this case. So yeah, I mean, if you watch this, thank you. Like I said, I'm barely trying to start this true crime this YouTube channel and stuff like that. I post original scary stories, music, and now I want to do true crime. So if you support me, I'll be able to get a better camera, better audio and stuff like that. So yeah, thanks.